So there was this young man, and this young man loved playing basketball. And he would always go out to this park. He had this court he loved. Him and all his friends would go out there and play. And one day they went out there and play, and the new kid walked up. Well, at least he was new to the young man. The young man had never seen him before. But anyway, he wanted to play basketball. And everyone was kind of hesitant, but eventually they said, hey, you could play. So they picked teams. They began playing basketball. On one play, the young man who was on a fast break, he had the ball. He was going up for a dunk, and the new kid fouled him. And the young man had an anger problem. So he jumped up, he blew up on the young man, and he got into a fight with him, and he actually won the fight. So the young man, the new kid, he limped off to his car and left. And the young man turned around, and all of his friends, their faces looked like they were scared. And he was like, what's wrong? So he went over there and he asked, what's wrong? Did I do something wrong? And he said, well, that new kid you just beat up, his big brother is a very notorious gang member, and he's probably going to come after you. So from that point, the young man was terrified. However, when the young man's friends decided, I'm going to help him out so he's not terrified all the time. Because every day, no matter what he did, he was terrified. He was always talking about this. He was looking at every car. He was running from just any and everything. He was terrified. He couldn't sleep. So his friend decided, I'm going to help him out. His friend actually bought him tickets to his favorite basketball team to go see the game. They went to his favorite artist. They went to his concert. I mean, he took him out to eat. He took him all kinds of places. He even took him on a vacation. I mean, he gave him tons of money, gifts. And one day his friend was like, so how are you feeling? Are you still terrified? The young man was like, of course I'm terrified. And the friend was like, what? I've been doing all these things. Nothing has been helping. And the young man looks at him and says, look, unless you can find a way to make peace between me and that gang member, nothing else matters. And that's what I want to talk about today. So look at our text, Romans chapter 10, verse 15. And how shall they preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the gospel of peace. We'll stop there. So last time in the last devotional, we looked at the word gospel. It means good news. The good news of Jesus Christ, that he was sent into this world to gain the righteousness and die, suffering the wrath for sinners so they can be saved. Because you and I, we are helpless to save ourselves. So this is good news that Jesus Christ did this. But notice it says it's the gospel of peace. Why peace? Why doesn't it say the gospel of joy? Why doesn't it say the gospel of love or the gospel of blessing? There's a lot of people who preach this so-called gospel that if you believe in Jesus, you'll be healthy, you'll be wealthy. He's just going to give you every physical blessing, anything you ask for. You just name it and God's going to give it to you. I mean, why isn't it called the gospel of wealth, the gospel of blessing, the gospel of health? Why the gospel of peace? I mean, certainly there's so many other things. The gospel of righteousness, the gospel of mercy. Why peace? Well, back to our example. No matter what the friend did for that young man, he was still terrified. Why? Because he knew something, and he knew this. He was in trouble because there was no peace between him and the gang member. And how much more so with God? We can have anything in this world. It doesn't matter how much money we have. We can have all the money. We can have all the pleasure. We can have everything. We can have all the health. We can have all the wealth. We can have an easy life. Everything goes our way. But if we know that we are not at peace with God, nothing else should matter. You say, well, how can so many people, or maybe it's you, how can you just enjoy this life, living your own way? You have no thoughts of God. You have no thoughts of Christ. You have no thoughts of sin. You just do whatever you want. You have money. You have wealth. You have health. You think, oh, God is blessing me. My life is good. My life is easy. Look at those Christians. They're suffering. That's because God hates them. Look at me. I'm good. And you wonder why you can do that. Well, it's because you do not know the relation you and God have. It's not a relationship of peace, but one as enemies. The psalmist says this in Psalm chapter 7. He says, God is a righteous judge and God is angry every day. Angry with who? Angry with the wicked. And if he does not turn back, if he does not turn from his sin, if he does not turn from living his own way, if he does not turn to Christ and see Jesus Christ, remember, confess him as Lord, bow the knee to him, deny himself, take up his cross and follow Christ, lose his life for the sake of Christ, not living for himself anymore, but living for Christ. If he does not turn back, God will sharpen his sword. He bends his bow and makes it ready. He has prepared his instruments of death and made his arrows fiery shafts. Listen, anyone in this world who has not turned from their sin and bowed their knee to Christ, including you, if you have not done that, if you have not turned from your sin and bowed the knee to Christ by faith, believing in him, following Christ by faith, if you have not done that, God's artillery is aimed at you and God is your enemy. You're like, why can I have peace? Well, it's a false peace. You're enjoying this world. You're at peace. Why? Because you do not know. Just like if that young man did not know that the new kid's brother was a gang member, the new kid he beat up. If he did not know that, the young man would go on and he would enjoy life. But because he knew that, he couldn't be at peace and nothing else mattered. And it's the same so with God. If you have not made peace with God by turning from your sin, turning from living for yourself, turning to Christ, bowing the knee to Christ, to live for Christ by faith in Christ, believing in him as your only hope, walking in obedience to him and repenting or turning when you sin against him. If you have not done that, you are not at peace with God. You need to know that, because I don't want you to walk through this world like Paul talks about the people in 1 Thessalonians 5. They're saying peace and safety, and suddenly destruction comes on them like labor pains on a pregnant woman, and they shall not escape. That's Paul talking about Jesus Christ returning to judge the wicked. They're saying peace and safety. They think they're at peace with God. They're living their lives. It's good. But then Jesus Christ comes back and they are destroyed. And they feel the sword of God. And they feel the arrows of God. And they are cast into hell where they feel that sword. And they are burned by those arrows and tortured by those instruments of death for all eternity. Listen, don't be deceived by a false peace. If you have not bowed your knee to Christ by faith and follow after him in obedience, there is no peace with God. And if there is no peace with God, just like my illustration, nothing else matters. So if you have not bowed your knee to Christ as your Lord, as your King, as your only hope in life and in death, you must do that. Because if you will not do that, nothing else matters.